All right. So should I send this link to Hamid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send it. We're ready to go. All right. Welcome. Friday. Brand Brothers Live. Jordan will be here in a second. We have a special guest. Who's a special guest this week?
It is Hamid, who is the CMO of Lucky Energy. Lucky Energy launched earlier this year, new player in the energy drink space. They are doing some pretty interesting stuff. They have an interesting backstory. Hamid was former like SVP at Liquid Death, and they built they brought in like some good talent from Liquid Death. So I am super excited to talk to him and just kind of hear what they've been doing so far. And all the traction that they've been getting, because that is also a very competitive space to play in. But it sounds like they're off to a good start.
No doubt.
Perfect. Let's go. He's going to come on in a second. Hopefully, the sunlight gets slightly less aggressive in my house. I may have to try and put that down so I don't have this angelic glow. But I did I got the Perplexity merch just showed up on my porch. So I figured we could start. We could start there. Branded mailbag. So the Perplexity, as many know, AI browser of choice. They created this little visual language, and people have been talking a lot about merch. We can pull out and do a live critique.
Did you start this premium merch for software brands and tech brands?
I did. I do want to say that I'm not going to call out any names, but most of the merch you see releasing, either we have done or bought the merch thing that Clayton and I offer as a course. All right, we got a little branded microchip hat. It's cute.
We're not off to a great start.
A little Perplexity on the back. I appreciate the details of the underneath. We got the whole Perplexity branding in there.
Okay, yeah.
Leather band that says "Know It All," which is a fun. After, how do you critique the Perplexity "Know It All" brand tagline? It's a entendre of sorts.
Not
a lot.
Yeah, not terrible. I mean, for what they're doing.
Second shipper bag.
Mailer bag's looking good. That dad hat we're not off to a good start with the dad hat.
Oh, you're anti-dad hat.
I mean, I'm not anti-dad hat. I just think they're like hard to. It's hard to do them well.
I like tiny fun characters, especially for tech brands, and versus and the know-it-all hat was not available when I went to get it.
Got it.
So look, this is good. If you want to state that you are active in the AI community, then you get to rock the Perplexity sweatshirt. I do appreciate the tag, nice little branded tag.
Yeah, that looks like a nice. It's kind of thick. A wash.
It's decent. This embroidery is really nice.
Yeah,
it's thick. It's it's reminiscent of the one we got from Canva. It's not like super heavyweight, but I don't think that's what they're going for. And then
is it like
one last
valuable?
Item,
hold on, is it valuable? Is it Valuable Studios heavyweight or no? Could never. No.
You are, to be honest.
That is the heaviest tee I have.
You got a little logo shirt. This I'd actually wear. This is a nice heavyweight shirt. This is actually really well done. Nice embroidery hit. Look at these guys. They got the hang tags just in case you want to sell them at retail.
Premium hang tab.
Let's go.
Where's the distribution for
brand merch is happening?
Where's the Perplexity merch? Where could it be purchased with a hang tag?
You got to ask Perplexity.
I imagine it probably sold out already, but I think it's Perplexity.supply.
Touche.
But did you see? I don't know. You saw Toby from Shopify was like, more people should be doing. We have Shopify supply, Perplexity supply. Every brand should have .supply, which I really feel like is my moment as someone who sells services and info products in that space.
Yes.
So I would agree with Toby.
Well, I was just commenting. Like I got a dad hat this week from TGL, which is like this new golf league, and I actually love their branding, but like the LA Golf Club, I actually think is good. I'm a sucker for the Old English, and you throw a golf club in there, and I'm sold. But it's hard to like make it present like good. It kind of shows up all floppy, like it's just hard to like make it present.
Either you do Hatbox or it gets crushed, and then Hatbox is a whole nightmare.
Yeah, the tough thing with dad hats is I don't know what the technical term for the height is, but there's so many varying heights that I remember trying to make a dad hat, and we had to get like 8 different samples, and we're like fitting them on heads, and it's like just the slightest.
There's various dome sizes. You're never going to make everybody happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the height of Jordan's dome versus the height of my dome. Just forehead size. Just phrenology, right? I don't know who that means is smarter, but it's like That's a very different hat experience, like overall, you know.
Yeah, might just have to go beanies.
You have you got deep capacity in that dome of yours, Oren. Mine is filled with useless knowledge. Ashwin, God, we are all of ilk, and that's why we are here together.
You're the we all three have a useless knowledge bank. Well,
it's true. It's true.
You got sports in there. Ashwin and I have replaced sports with commerce.
Indeed. Yeah, which is probably more beneficial, to be honest. Like, I could tell you, Vince Young's rushing yards from 2007 at the University of Texas, but, fortunately, I've put some finance and business into this dome as well. But unfortunately, Ashwin sent this TikTok of this viral post for Tennessee Volunteers and people's commentary on it. And of course, I went down this rabbit hole yesterday of looking at the Tennessee Volunteers financial records and open records.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you ever want to know a salary of someone that works in academia, your boy Jordan Rogers is going to be honest.
They're literally open records requests. So like this guy was doing commentary and like, oh, these aren't interns, these are highly trained professionals. I'm like, well, they are like paid interns. They're basically making $40,000 to $52,000 a year, and it's public records requests. It's like actually out there for you. So.
Oh, I want to get it out in a second. I'm saying, but Jordan throwing Freedom of Information Acts out at UT just in his free time. I'm just saying.
No, it's like literally published for any state-sponsored school.
It's funnier if it's a free, it's a FOIA.
Don't put it past me though. I would put a open records request maybe out there.
But this is a good conversation point. That so this intern combo on social media where it's like, oh, give the intern a raise. Obviously, we all know that no one. It's a funny trope. It's a little offensive, a lot of offensive if you're actually a person working there. But interns don't make the social content. But then the funny part is they're all like, we're not interns. But then at the end of the day, if you work in sports, especially, you are making like $48,000 to $50,000 a year doing this at max, or maybe you're up closer to 60, which is not that much better than an intern. Why is sports like that, Jordan? Everyone I would know works like the NFL or some shit like that. That was the almost least paid job of my life.
It's true, and it's not that far of a stretch. I can show the video here in just a second, but like Tennessee Volunteers, one of the best content teams in the game. They had a post this week that did 24 million views on TikTok, 2 million on Instagram. So it's this one right here, this like Venom. They even got Venom the movie in their comments here because they did this kind of, black whatever sort of thing that's taken over. Anyway, the content team, obviously this. Yeah, Venom mode indeed. The content team have gone crazy on this. Can y'all hear me? Okay. But I'll mute that. They've got a full teams who are doing these like graphic packages for uniform unveils and all kinds of stuff. It's absolutely amazing. But the challenge in sports is that everybody wants to work. For anybody who lives in Tennessee who's like creative wants to work, the most popular thing going in that state. And so it's basically this, like, you can have the coolest property in the world, but everybody wants to be a part of it. And so the demand is so high that they can kind of keep wages down. And so, I wouldn't cry a river for any of these, college students who are just out of college. They actually do have like half of the people who are taking photos for any game are actual students who are probably not making actual money, but they're getting an incredible experience. So there's that kind of conversation of trade-off. And, so they can keep the wages down. For them, I think this is a great opportunity, just like I have done. Like Nike, you're not going to make the most money at Nike when you first start. You can eventually, like once you reach an executive level, you can start making good money through stock and stock options. But you could always go like sell diapers and make twice your salary. Maybe not twice, but 20, 30% more. But you get to work on the thing that you really enjoy. So it's a tough balance there. The challenge with college sports, the last thing I'll just say is like, they're basically working around the clock 6.5 days a week. They do not get much time off or anything. So there's no time like your 20s to perhaps do that. But, it can be challenging. Touche, Warren.
Wait, you worked at Nike?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think
you haven't leveraged that all here. Oh, we got the meet in the back end. We should.
Let's get.
So, want to give him a proper intro? I will add him to the fold.
Yes, let's get Hamid in here. Hamid, what's going on?
I'm
Yo.
taking care of Liam. Cool.
What's
How
going
are
on,
you?
boys?
Welcome.
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Good, good. Thank you for coming on. So just to set some context, Hamid is the CMO of Lucky Energy, formerly Lucky Fuck Energy.
Oh,
We'll-
look
we'll
at that,
get-
Ashwin.
We'll get into some of that. Yeah, I got a few
Ashwin's
on
got
hand.
the gear.
And so, yeah, I think all of us, at least, Jordan and I, we're talking, I think we talked about Lucky and their presence at the US Open earlier this
Totally.
year. That's
Yep.
kind of where we first, maybe not like, that's kind of where we first saw it pop up on social, but had kind of been familiar with the brand a little bit prior to that. So, yeah, I think as a starting point, let's just dive into that. You guys had this presence at the US Open. It was pretty creative because it wasn't like a branded sponsored thing. I think you showed up in like TFO's box. He was, his coach was wearing the Lucky shirts. Yeah, would love to hear just a little bit more of like, what was the thinking? How did that come about? What was the impact of it?
Yeah, well, first off, appreciate you guys for having me on. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, the US Open, it kind of came about like really fast and furious, kind of all of a sudden. So what happened was leading into that week, we signed our first NBA player, which we'll announce fairly soon.
Oh, nice.
And the background of this brand, so Richard Laver, who's the founder of the brand, he's in the family of Rod Laver, right? Rod Laver, famous tennis great. And so he's deeply connected in his time as an amateur tennis player and just knows a ton of people. And so when we signed our first NBA player, I was like, Rich, let's just try to like sign someone in tennis. Give me your top 5 or 10. And when I woke up the next morning, it was Labor Day weekend. He's like, he got Tiafoe's coach and Jessica Pegula's coach to like lock in and be down to wear merchandise.
Crazy.
And you guys know it's like a very similar approach to like, a lot of brands trying to outfit wags of stars with brand and product and figuring that out. And so
For those that don't
like,
know, do you want to describe what a wag looks like for the unindoctrinated community? Wives and girlfriends, let's throw it out there.
Yeah, wives and girlfriends, exactly. So yeah, for us, it's like we knew there was so much screen time given to coaches, and it's a very rare sport where there's a lot of attention paid to coaches and a lot of cutaways. And as the days of the US Open just kept going on and on and on, there's more attention, and it kind of culminated into that Sunday. So we got a lot of our partners, distributors, retail prospects who are like, wow, like, holy shit, saw you guys at the US Open. Things must be going like really, really great. So I think there was a perception win there. And on the second side of it, like in terms of just, what we saw with like customers and site, we saw about a 5 to X lift on site traffic during those days when it was up. So I think for us, like with any other place that we'll play in, it's the beginning of a longer play, right? We don't just win with like one thing, but where we show up in tennis and other places like hoops and football and just music is going to be an ongoing part of the brand.
Yeah.
I hope the basketball athlete is Peyton Pritchard, just off the luck connection, but we'll see. Jordan, do you have any strong bets? Who are we looking at? Who do you think they signed?
I don't know. Can you tell us West Coast, East Coast?
There's 2 hints. You don't have to reveal it if we get it right.
So I'll just say this: it's a West Coast player,
Okay.
and it's like many of our creators and talent that we work with. It's someone that's gone through something and persevered and like rise to a level of success somehow. So this person embodies it. Yeah, yeah. We got Ben Simmons.
Yes.
No, that's for sure.
Ben Simmons would actually. Ben Simmons would align with this coach's strategy. He'll be sitting on the bench watching everyone, and you'll get a ton of airtime that way. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Super cool. So, like, okay, the other thing to me that was so interesting is the branding, right? So when the US Open boxes were really interesting because you'd look over and it seemed like a thing at this year where they started collecting patches on their arms, like some of the coaches and stuff, starting to look like NASCAR drivers. But y'all stuck out so much because there was this black tape like over it. And that was like this real intrigue where you're like, yo, what does it say? Why is there tape? And my initial thinking was y'all had sponsored someone and the US Open had made you like put black tape over it. And so it made it like even more compelling and interesting. Like, can you talk about the black tape design and that effect on people?
For sure. Yeah, when we first launched last July, it was initially launched as Lucky Fuck Energy.
Mhm.
And it's called Lucky Fuck because Richard, our founder, survived a plane crash that killed 136 people, including his dad. He has a daughter with special needs. And his stepson gave him a bracelet that said Lucky Fuck on it like 5 years ago because he's built a pretty insane and great life for himself, despite the tragedies that he kind of has dealt with. And so, when we first launched with that, I think we always knew that as this brand gets bigger for retail and distributors, we had to make this safer for shelf.
Mhm.
And I came on board in February and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, we can take out the F, but it's so much of like the DNA of who we are, like the kind of stuff, how we're going to market, the kind of like irreverent stuff we're going to do, the motivational stuff that we're going to do. So I was like, rather than doing that, let's just create a little bit of like intrigue and like redact the fuck somehow. And we decided on this duct tape concept. And it's interesting because it's played out across the board from like US Open. We had people message us to just be like, I finally found out what was under that tape and how dare you guys like do that. And my kid is watching and da 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 da. So there's an uproar from there, which we appreciate. Like, I think we love controversy. And then I think the other part that we found out through like early design and shelf testing is that having that tape there just draws your eye to it way more on shelf. Like we've done shelf studies where we're against top brands out there and the likelihood and the purchase intent to picking up a can is like as high as them for a brand that has like little to no brand awareness right now. So there is this like, it's part of the DNA to kind of do that and kind of like fuck with people a little bit. But the other part, I think it just has like this like curiosity that we lean into through packaging, which, helps growth across the board.
Absolutely. It's the controversy I do think is so great. Ashwin, you've got some wheat pasting here.
Yeah, so I want to talk about this this a little bit, Hamid, because I think that the tape is really interesting. How you're using that now as like a symbol and like other aspects of the brand. I saw this campaign from earlier this year. It's called the Search at Your Own Risk risk campaign. Can you talk a little bit about this and just like some of the thinking and maybe what it did?
Yeah. So when I started in February, obviously, like the first thing I did when I heard about the brand was like I just Googled Lucky Fuck.
Okay.
And when you Google Lucky Fuck, nothing but porn links show up.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And
it's hard to search for.
It's hard to search for in its original state. And so rather than being like, oh man, we have an SEO problem, let's figure out SEO, I was like, no, this is a fucking campaign. Like this is something we can do around like planting the seed of like, don't think about the pink elephant in the room. It's like, don't search for us. So we created this campaign. It's called Search at Your Own Risk. It was a 4-part kind of docu-series thing where we showed the lives of people going to shit when they Google Lucky Fuck. So like, a couple files for a divorce, some guy gets his podcast canceled, a woman gets banned from picking up her kids at school, like these kind of like moments. And for a lot of our campaigns, we love out of home and we love like an in real world kind of extension of a campaign. I think that's really important for us. And so as I was just kind of like thinking through, I was like, all right, why do we have such an issue with this 4-letter word when we take our kids to see nudity in museums all day, every day, and it's in textbooks and it's in classical art and it's all over the place. So I was like, all right, let's just fuck with the idea of like bringing art to the streets because most stuff out there is just trash. Let's bring art to the streets and then we'll like put tape over, private parts just to kind of like make a statement around it. And so that was kind of the idea and the insight behind it. And then we launched it on April Fool's Day, which is a time that most brands like do dumb shit and corny stuff and stuff like no one really thinks is real. We're like, all right, let's do a real thing on April Fool's Day just to kind of continue to fuck with people.
Yeah.
So I think what a lot of our followers often ask things like, okay, like, that's an amazing idea. That campaign looks incredible. How does that come together, like with your team? Like are some people bringing references, you brainstorming ideas in meetings? Like obviously you have a CEO who is just part of his DNA. Like how do you get stuff like that approved? So any insights on the process for some of the younger listeners would probably be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because I come from an advertising background, at the agency level and working with big, CPG strategic company. It's like, you guys know this, like the more people in a room, the worse the ideas tend to get. And so the kind of DNA that we built here, and this is what I really appreciate about Richard, is like, he gives me free autonomy to kind of just like explore. And we don't have the typical like approval process things, right? It's like, if I like it and the team likes it, we're making it, and it goes really fast. Like that Search at Your Own Risk campaign went from concept to shot to live in like 4 weeks. It was like really, really fast on that one to move. So for us, yeah, I think the inherent DNA of this brand is, you know, we keep it really lean with like creative contributors. You know, sometimes it's like a concept will come from me or someone else, and like we just tighten it up. But yeah, I think the less people involved, typically the better the work ends up being.
Yeah,
Golly.
that is
Say that again.
that is pretty crazy fast. And you kind of touched upon this one idea of like the more people in the room, and we talk about this from a number of angles, you know, especially around like social and content, like the more people you have in the room kind of weighing in on an idea, the more it kind of gets like defanged and just watered down a little bit. I know you have a background from Liquid Death, and you were there for some time. And you know, Liquid Death, we've talked about their campaigns to death, and you know, I think do a phenomenal job. What are some of like the kind of like lessons or insights or experiences that maybe you and some of the team are bringing from Liquid Death, like as you think about, again, another product in a category that's beverage, that's somewhat saturated, where you're kind of an underdog?
Yeah. I think so Mike Cesario, the founder of Liquid Death, him and I work together in advertising, and that's kind of how things happen with him and I. I've always respected Mike in the sense of just like his risk taking and his like out of the box ideas. And, you know, I always envision myself as like a creative thinker, but he's like on another level. And I think just like working alongside of him for, you know, 4.5+ years, my propensity for like risk taking definitely changed. And how I think about like what entertainment as a proxy into like connection with the brand really means. And I think Liquid Death was like one of the first brands that really did that on an ongoing basis. Like, you know, we didn't talk about alkalinity and pH and sourcing, like we led with entertainment. And so a lot of the stuff that we're building here at Lucky Energy is like entertainment led. It's really focused on like getting people to just stop, pay attention. And the other part I think too is just, you know, energy drinks are such a sea of sameness, in the same way that like bottled water was, or a lot of categories are. It's like hyper masculine, bro coded, you know, chiseled abs, hot girls, all that stuff. And what we're trying to build here is like a very multi-dimensional brand that can do a lot of things really, really well. Like we can motivate and inspire people because of our origin story. We can make people laugh because of a rebel story. We can do these different things. And you know, I use kind of like two analogies, which is it's like we're kind of building like a classic album here, where some things are going to be like ballads, some things are going to be like club hits. And, you know, what we've seen so far for this year, you know, we really started accelerating stuff in April, but like what we've seen this year is it's starting to like really pay off, differentiate us, create a little space for us within a really competitive category.
On that point of differentiation, this is 19 ounces. Is that bigger than all of the cans that are out there?
There are some like 20 ounce and like some bigger cans out there, but 19 is definitely on the bigger side. And it's something that we'll look at as we expand our retail footprint around like different formats and sizes of that, for sure. But yeah, I think we wanted to come out with something that was big and just captured a lot of attention with you know, the kind of like retail footprint that we had. But as things scale out, things could change on that. Yeah.
So you have really interesting social media that does really well. Would be curious to tap into the strategy there. What have y'all been doing on there, and kind of what are you looking at testing or doing going forward?
Yeah, I think on social, you know, we've kind of you know, we continue to put like the product as like a secondary thing, and we just try to figure out like how can we tap into these cultural moments and memes, but without being reliant on them, right? Like so many brands want to jump into a meme, and all of a sudden you have a brand that's a meme brand, and it doesn't really stand for anything. So we're trying to like walk this balance between like really standing on our own footing on like what this brand really is about, and we pick and choose moments that we want to like tap into. And so one of the most recent things that we've done, which is that viral video that's really doing well on TikTok more so than Instagram, is like I've always had this idea of staging viral moments that just feel like are all of our For You pages, or most of our For You pages, and then just having a little tongue-in-cheek reveal at the end that just says like, hey, this is an ad. And that's what we've done, is like we've started doing some of that last month. We're going to do a couple of more things around that, but it's all about just like a reverence, first 3 to 6 seconds, entertaining, making people smile, laugh, think, share. That's really the goal of it. And so we're churning that up right now, but it's a laboratory, man. Like we're testing shit. There's things that you guys know, like you're like, oh, this is going to crush, and it does nothing. And there's other stuff that you're like, this sucks. And it goes bananas.
Well, we'll say we critique a lot of social on here. You have a genuinely interesting, frequently successful social media account, which is extremely rare. So I would say nice work on that. And I love the viral experience on here, which I feel like really ties into the zeitgeist particularly well. If you are, for people that, again, I'm always going to try and tie back this to like some of the younger, more junior people that are watching this. If you want to be testing and experimenting like that, throwing stuff up, like, look, you'll have a 1 million view video next to a 5,000 view video, which we all know is okay. But if you were explaining that to like a boss or someone at a company, how do you kind of justify some of that strategy? How do you put that in context for people that don't understand it as well?
You know, I think it's just that. I think it's just like really setting this up as like, you know, we're in experiment mode where things get posted and removed as quickly as they get posted, right? So, you know, we see really quickly, like if something's going to perform well or not. We have a good gauge on it. We might put a little bit of paid media behind some things just to kind of see how it performs. But it's like, you know, marketing, you're not going to be right all the time. You can't be right. Part of the job is to be wrong a lot and to learn from that and like move from that. And so that's how I think the culture of like how we move here on social is we throw a bunch of ideas out every single month. We tend to do almost all of them. And, you know, we decide what works and what doesn't. But I think the really important thing about what doesn't work is that just because something doesn't work once doesn't mean you should just kill it forever. And a lot of brands do this. They're like, oh, you know, we're trying to work with creators in the wellness space, but it did nothing. It's like, yeah, dude, they just met you for the first time. And it's like a relationship. It's like, you got to show up, you got to be there. You got to, you know, like do your part. And it's like dating. It's like, if you come in and just tell everyone the best things about you and then you expect to get married, that's just like not going to happen. So it takes frequency, repetition. And that's how we think about like even our duds.
Yo, man, that is, yeah, that's incredible.
What
Go ahead, Ash.
Sorry, I was just going to say, what is the setup of your content team? Like, how many people are on this?
Exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so we have about 4 people on our team right now, including me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a couple of people outside of like the Lucky world who are comedians who have worked at high virality brands. And we've built out a nice little team. So I would say total in terms of social content, we probably have like 8 people kind of touching it, either contributing ideas or making it happen or posting or reaching out. So that's the team size today. But they all kind of focus on different things, right? So like rather than having a big writer's room of people just like dumping ideas, like we've got our comedian guys doing stuff in that lane. We've got these other guys doing things on like bigger, mischievous, like fucking with people in the real world kind of lane. So they all, and we got another set of people who are doing things like around hope core and nostalgia core that plays into the motivational side of the brand. So they're disparate teams and different teams with very singular focus on what they're trying to do. And that's how I think I'd like to run it. I think not all creatives are good at all types of creative, right? Like, you know, a dude who, you know, Jordan, I know like a guy who like writes for Nike is not always going to be great at writing for, you know, a beverage brand. They could be, but that doesn't always happen. So yeah, we set it up that way where we have specialists working on different types of content.
Yeah. Okay.
God, that's so smart. And because we kind of go deeper here, like, are they in-house, like with y'all, or do you have agency partners? I mean, you talked about some of the writers outside, but like, do you have a agency who's on retainer that you work with here? Or are you kind of working with those creators a la carte?
You know, even though I come from an agency world, I tend to hate agencies. And it's no offense, but you know, you're paying for an account coordinator to work on your business just to write notes. It just seems like silly. Yeah. So we only have 2 full-time marketing people at Lucky. Sick. It's me and our director of field marketing, and she comes from RX Bar, and she was the first hire I made because us winning in the real world is like the thing here, right? Like as much as we're doing digitally and socially, us winning in the real world is the thing. And then everyone else is just like contract assassins, man. They're free agents. They're doing stuff for a bunch of brands. They're people that I worked with in the past where I'm like, yo, I need 5 ideas this month, like spit them out to me, and we move fast on it. So, you know, that will change as things expand, as our retail footprint increases. You know, we'll probably have like someone running, e-com and D2C. We'll probably have someone, trying to work through like shopper marketing and retail media. But as of right now, I'm a big believer that like lean teams can accomplish a lot just in terms of moving speed in an environment where like you don't really need to do high fidelity shit all the time. Like low fidelity stuff is winning time and time again. And so that's how we've structured the team.
Go ahead, Ashwin.
No, I was going to switch gears a little bit to you saying like, hey, we win kind of in the real world. We like do marketing online, but I guess, food and beverage, so much of it is like distribution and like, in retail. I'm assuming for Lucky, it's probably convenience stores and grocery. Are you guys are all kind of like based in Austin right now, or kind of getting distribution everywhere?
Yeah, so we have currently about close to 5,000 retail locations across the country.
Wow.
We've signed on a lot of DSDs, like a lot of distributors, and we're kind of getting ahead of that as we get into retail. And so, we have 500 7-Eleven stores in Southern California that we've been, operating in for like the last couple of months. Other territories are starting to open up for us. We have a lot of like C-store deals that are like at the final stages of being done. And I think we'll probably end the year around like close to, 8,500 to 9,000 total stores across the country. And then as we get into next year, that accelerates with more national plays at the C-store level, these early conversations with the big box category killers like your Walmarts and your Targets of the world. And so, we know that energy wins in convenience. So we just really want to focus on like driving really strong velocities and like support there before we expand too fast, too soon.
Given the, just talking a little bit, just kind of like macro, what's going on? Has anything about Ghost's acquisition, led to any opportunities for you, or does that shift the landscape at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we're working on right now, and more will come from it. But yeah, I think for a lot of distributors, these brands come and go, right? Like they're there and they're not. And for us, we really want to take advantage of this like opportunity and energy. So there is stuff that we're working on currently to try to take advantage of that. I think the kind of distributor meetings that we've been having, and these are guys who have distributed for the biggest names in energy for a long period of time. For us to even like be in those meetings is a testament to the team that we built. Like Aaron, who runs our kind of sales team, he comes from C4 Energy. He's built and through his relationships, we've been able to get into some of these meetings. And these guys that sometimes feel a little bit jaded from like the typical like branding and brand approach on energy are looking at us as like a breath of fresh air. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing early on, is like we're seeing partners who probably wouldn't have even batted an eye at us until maybe next year. We're like, holy shit, like look at the team that they've built, the traction that we have. And this is something we want to get behind. So we're definitely actively working on taking advantage of the most recent news with Ghost.
All right. I wanted to just go back. We may have you hang with us if you want to talk about some of our This Week in Marketing topics, but where we just riff on everything we've seen. But can you talk a little bit about, like, you've been from the traditional agency world, you're now like, you guys are doing a much more like guerrilla approach. Can you talk about kind of the shifts of that you see of like maybe how agencies are going to need to evolve to keep up versus like how you're thinking about that world now that you're, on the client side per se?
Yeah, I think, this well, Jordan, is like agency in the whole industry tries to like transform like every 5 years to something else, but it doesn't ever seem to like really stick. It's like,
right.
It's like they're late to the game, and then it's like something new. And then it's like, okay, we got to go to that thing now, Yeah. So I think fundamentally, my agency background, I think the one thing that I think like just agencies can just do better is just strip it down to what are the things that are really going to like move business. And not everything has to be such a structured way of doing things. So what I mean by that is, if I go to a certain agency, like they want to go like, oh, we need to develop a brand book, and then we need to do this thing, and then we need to figure this thing out. Then we need to do like a persona mapping and a user journey thing. Who cares, man? Like, who cares about any of that stuff? Like anytime I hear the word journey, I'm like, that's such bullshit. Or like, so I think you have to really think in today's climate, especially if you're like a young brand, you have to think like a creator. You literally have to think like a creator. You have to put stuff out like a creator. You have to shoot stuff like a creator. You have to have the same kind of frequency and consistency like a creator. And that's a hard thing for agencies that have been fed by like AOR relationships, TV, big budget productions. So all of a sudden you've got a copywriter writing TikTok ads and they're disgruntled because they're like, oh, it's just a TikTok ad. But dude, like TikTok ads and TikTok content is making brands. Like, so I think there's like a perception shift. And I think that will get better as more young people come into the industry. But I also think it's tough for advertising too to recruit that kind of talent because they're like, yo, why am I going to get paid nothing to come do this and be a cog in this like big ass like machine where, you know, 99% of my ideas get shot down anyway. So like, what's the fulfillment in it? So I think there's this like, there's this thing that agencies need to figure out like how to make people happy, fulfill them, give them the work that makes sense, and ultimately give clients the kind of shit that will really, you know, push the needle forward.
Right before you jumped on, we were talking about the Tennessee football team and did this like crazy, you know, content piece. It got 24 million views, you know, I don't know, probably 30 million across all the platforms. And, you know, basically they're making $40,000-$60,000, like the kids who are the young people who are working on that. And I was wondering if like there's a new model where like you incentivize, you know, sometimes we're creators and get incentivized occasionally by a brand that'll be like, hey, per click or per view, you can make it. There's probably not enough of those. But I wonder if there's like
per view. I'm just saying, like, you look at this, like, I think we all know we could go make a 1 million view video every single video, but we just know what the quality of that's going to look like. It's like, you know, I think we're doing so I do think it's a hard, and obviously like any click through on anything with brand resonance. So I don't know, not to cut you off, but I do think that model is like, there isn't a model there, but there's a better model than having employees. And TikTok Shop is showing people they can make real money. And so there's really just like, how do you tie into real money culture, right? It's like, I think it's going to be a difference of, oh man, we're paying these kids way more than we're comfortable with, but we have a model we can figure it out with on the back end.
That's what I was wondering. I don't know what the model is. I was talking with there's a YouTube golfer that I was met a few weeks ago, and he has editors who basically can choose their own journey who work with him, and basically he can pay them a flat rate, or he'll pay them like, you know, half the flat rate and then half of they'll get to participate in the upside where they're like incentivized to make it a really good video. And I thought that was like a really innovative way of thinking about, you know, working with creators in that sense. And actually one thing, speaking of creators, you said brands need to be thinking about creators. Now, us three have basically started this show. We feel like we have a little bit of a different insight sometimes because we're creating day in and day out on platforms, but we've also been in the industry doing these things. How did you, are you a creator? Like, how did you understand that mentality where I feel like it's so hard to communicate with people who kind of have the traditional corporate or agency background if they're not in the platform day in and day out? So you seem to have a really good grasp on that. How did you get that?
Yeah, I think like every year I'm like, yo, I'm gonna put out more content, and it lasts like one day, and I'm just like, okay, cool, this is hard. I think so. Like my trajectory to CMO is it's not the typical like path, right? So, you know, a lot of CMOs typically start in like a brand track, and you know, they went to got an MBA, they start off an associate with like, and they go through that direction. I started off my career in search marketing.
Yeah, your experience is wild, bro. You've got like a lot here, and I would love for you to we've got a lot of young people, aspiring marketers earlier in their career sometimes. So yeah, this is a cool journey.
Yeah, dude. So like for me, when I was like in high school, this like thing called PayPal came out, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like you can make money like on your 56K modem. Like, how does this work? And so my friend, his dad had a body shop, and he would get discount for like aftermarket parts, right? And it was right around the time like Fast and the Furious was like a thing, right? So everyone was tuning up their like Japanese import and whatever it might be. So I would just go on message boards, use his dad's discount, and sell like shift knobs and steering wheels and like all kind of these things.
So much
and I was
fiber.
Like, so much, dude, give me all the carbon fiber. Yeah, exactly. Give me all the carbon fiber.
I had it. I'm there with you.
Inject me with carbon fiber. So yeah, doing that and just seeing how to make money while I was like in college. And then when I got out, I think was just kind of thinking about like this connection between like marketing and experience and customer service and conversion rate optimization and like fulfillment and all this stuff. And I think that's just kind of just like primed me to think about things as I got into like an agency world where I was just like one piece of a bigger puzzle to just like break it down. And even like Mike at Liquid Death, like him and I would be in meetings sometimes with 30 people with a brand. And we're like, what the hell is this? Like how did this happen? Like the idea that we initially pitched is now watered down to like this. And so, you know, while I'm not a creator, I consume a lot of non-brand content. Like I don't care about other brands. Like I just like there's brands that I love, but the brands that I love tend to be brands that I fell in love with when I was like 12 or 10 or 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just have a finite amount of headspace in the day. And I think what happens with a lot of marketers too is like, you look at so many other brands, it's like Inception. You just start emulating versus creating.
Yeah. That's a big problem in Portland, I would see, with like Nike, Adidas, Columbia, North Bay. Like you all end up in the same hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ashton.
There's like, I was just having this conversation with someone earlier today because they're at like a large company. They're trying to figure out their social, and they're like, you know, we have a few people on it, but we're trying to like, you know, dial in the voice, and everyone's like commenting on all the content that we create. And I asked this question to everyone who, like, especially from a company background, when they're thinking about making content, I asked this question, like, who are your favorite like follows on Instagram or TikTok? And they'll list them off, and it'll be like 15 individuals. No one has ever, even people in branding and marketing, have ever said my favorite follow is this company. Yeah. Because it's like, and I'm like, okay, so what is the common thread among everyone that you follow? It is an individual making content and putting it out there. It is like a single-minded idea and a single-minded voice speaking to you, engaging with you in some way. Why should a corporate account be any different? Like, sure, there's like challenges and regulatory hurdles and like brand voice and all this shit that you have to like get through. But like, if we can pull that out as like, hey, the good ideas here tend to come from like a couple people experimenting, like connecting with their audience. Like, why aren't we applying that from like a content strategy standpoint or marketing standpoint from when we're trying to make corporate, you know, accounts work?
Yeah. And I think like, even when we tap into like brands, sometimes you just like look at your own category, which is the sea of the same stuff, right? So like for us, like we launched one merch drop, and for that merch drop, you know, we cast 6 differently abled models for that. So like gunshot, you know, survivor, prosthetic arm. And it was like, that embodies the lucky fuck triumph over tragedy personality. That's something like no energy drink brand would do. But like some of the inspiration around that was pulling from like early 90s Calvin Klein, or like, you know, some of the social stuff that we're going to be doing now around like merchandising the brand is like pulling from like brands like Loewe, like where we're pulling from like high fashion and art accounts for something like energy, which typically people see in a very certain way. So we're trying to bring like taste, I think, a little bit to this like category. But if I were to look at like every other energy drink brand's account, like I would just have like a bunch of 6-packs on our social feed, and that's not
true. Branding in its essence right now, in this particular moment in time, is just applied taste, right? It used to be there had to be significantly more factors, but right now, where it's so creative focused, it really is that. This is excellent. This is excellent stuff. Just give it for social media. Nice work.
Yeah, 1.5 million views here on TikTok. I mean, I was looking at it. It's really impressive.
Appreciate that.
What any other guerrilla things, US Open style, that you guys are thinking about coming up, or were there a couple others that maybe we missed that made
Dream Gorilla activation? You know, like are we taking over the Kentucky Derby? Are you
sponsoring any OnlyFans content?
Yeah.
We actually do have an OnlyFans campaign coming out.
I was gonna say, like, as soon as you said that, I was like, this is a 40% chance of being
Yeah. I think it's like always the thing when you're using talent is, you know, try to humanize people and show them in a light that you just don't see them in. So like that's what our OnlyFans thing will be at some point. But yeah, we've got some things I think cooking up. I think one of the big things as we get into like markets is, you know, like doing demos and like, you know, having wrap trucks mob around the city. Like those things are cool. Like it does a lot. Like we've done it in SoCal, we've done it in a couple of other places, and people are like, they just think you're bigger when they see some of those like in real world things. But, you know, I want to really like tap into the idea of like, what does a Lucky Energy store look like? Right. And really building that experience around like, yeah, you can come try the product, but it's also almost like a digital art exhibit where you can come in and like do something and get some utility from it, and it taps into something. So I think where we show up with like stores or temporary storefronts is just going to be a thing that we, you know, test out as we get into next year, more and more so. And then we've got other things that we're just trying to like, you know, like think through. It's like, you know, who thinks of themselves lucky enough to have like a dinner suspended on a crane, or would you want to take that and like eat 100 feet in the air? And like, so we have a bunch of like weird kind of crazy ideas around how we can bring this brand to life in a way that feels more than just like, hey, do you want to try a sample of our energy drink? Like more impactful.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
Yeah.
This is amazing stuff. You want to hang with us for the last 10 or so?
I'll hang.
Okay.
And Ashwin, appreciate the bureau plug, man. Imaginary is a friend of ours. So yeah, man, good stuff.
Yeah. They're good people, and Bureau's great. Bureau's great.
Oh yeah.
I got to get one of those lucky fuck hats. Freedom to
Dude,
fly.
Send me your addresses. We'll hook you guys up with stuff. Yeah.
Hold on, let's look at this. Freedom to fly. How head to head are we going with Red Bull Gives You Wings?
You know, I've always been like a
Dude.
I've
When you see
always
them on
been
the streets, is it on site or just?
well, so the thing with like Red Bull, it's like, we're very aware, right, of like, you know, we pick our battles, and we're gonna do stuff but it's like, it's one of those things where I'm constantly like saying this to people. It's like, we don't need to beef. We can just do our thing and create our own lane. And I think there'll be a time for like where we do things like that. But I am a fan of like David versus Goliath setups in terms of injecting yourself into the conversation. So, you know, I used to work at an agency called Deutsch in LA, and we had Taco Bell, and Taco Bell had just released breakfast. And what they did is they basically hired 30 guys around the country who were named Ronald McDonald. They're actually called Ronald McDonald. That was their real names. And they had all these Ronald McDonalds become fans of Taco Bell breakfast. So even though you never thought about Taco Bell and breakfast, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's Taco Bell versus McDonald's for breakfast. Like this. So I think those kind of things like we'll fuck around with. But yeah, we'll pick our
Jordan loves that shit. Jordan, what was the one you called out at the HubSpot event?
Oh my gosh, I am such a sucker for this. Like this strategy.
Jordan, if you can get a bunch of people with a name, like I'm in. Just say less. What was the one you were talking about?
Yeah,
it's like pipeline company or something.
Yeah, hold on. It's like a cereal company. Cereal. Serena Williams, I think.
Was that the one where they were using the names of other people?
Yeah, it was like the cow or something there.
Yeah, they were the favorite cereal, like Ronaldo, Michael Jordan loves our cereal, Serena Williams eats our cereal. Anyway, I'm a real sucker for puns on names here. These are hilarious, where they basically sign like Michael Jordan, Serena Williams, Ronaldo, and they put a little asterisk, and it's like, you know, Ronaldo from Staffordshire, London, England. So good. The NIL, there's a NIL Iowa offensive line did this. It's probably the best to me. So they did. They got the line that says "Purchase more ham and bacon," and it's the Iowa. Oh my gosh, the Iowa pork producers did this, and then of course my favorite was DeColdest Ferguson, who did a AC company in Alabama. This guy's name is DeColdest, DeColdest Crawford, and some genius Alabama AC company signs him, and he's getting featured in the New York Times. You know,
this is how NIL is supposed to work. It has to involve. I feel like the new NIL regulations, it has to involve a pun. Any pun-related things immediately approved off GP. No worries. And anything else has to go through a significant process.
Yeah. Punt. We're here for the puns. Totally.
It is kind of crazy though, like how much creativity is in the world. Like, you know, you just see like a random like law office trending on TikTok just because they just know how to make it's like it's wild, man. It's so wild.
Have you seen like the Minnesota Chevrolet dealership account that does like the office skits?
So good.
There's now one too. There's someone doing a Parks and Rec style one with like an outdoors. Yeah,
it is like one of the. It is like better than any TV series that's on right now. Like the acting is just so good, the scripting is so good, and it's like 10 people who work at a car dealership. You know, it's like,
dude, these car dealerships are like, man, having a renaissance. There's a car dealership in It's
Yeah,
I
because
think
they're
it's
monetizing free time, which is like all any of them have.
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
there's
they both
a
have
there's a
personality. That's the other thing I want to call out is like you have multiple extroverted people, and you have people who still have this kind of like office. You have to kind of banter and have a thing. And there's also like male female dynamics. Like all of that exists in car dealerships in the way that it's kind of gone from like 90% of other places. And you don't have all these like quasi like on the line sales personalities like in any other environment. So I think this is literally the perfect incubator for whatever this looks like.
So part of me was like, I saw this, like, there's a SoCal Honda account that just does insane numbers. And I was like, there's no way these girls work at this dealership. No.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, they're just actresses. But I think like, that's just like a good model because I mean, you guys know, like even with creators, you can get a creator a brief and it's just like the worst acted, scripted out thing. You're just like, nah, I don't want that.
I don't know. I'll say if you just stuck a reality show in Fletcher Jones versus Mercedes down in OC, which is where like all the people flying from China to buy like the electric Brabus and like the team that works there, is like it would just be like you wouldn't have to hire a person. It could just be the daily drama of just like some woman screaming in Mandarin and like the Armenian guys being like, no one's taking care of me. It'd be great.
For sure.
Bro, but I mean, like you could compare this TikTok, like they're doing numbers, dude. Like they're doing, averaging.
Yeah, well, there's a conversation too around if it generated traffic, and then one of the guys was like, "Hey, I went to one of these like viral Mitsubishis, and it was like people like down the line trying to get taken advantage of for a 10-year 30% on an Eclipse."
They're rivaling. They're doing 10x the numbers of the Chevrolet actual TikTok.
Oh, the actual Chevrolet account. The fact that no one has gone in. I was just ranting about this for this other video I'm doing. Where I'm ranting about how bad camera company social media is. But the fact that a car company hasn't co-opted this and had it been like imagine if whoever, I don't know if it's Chevy or whoever does the main one, but they're like doing like, okay, we're gonna launch the corporate offsite. We're gonna get like the 3 people that have these are all gonna come in for like a reality show like on our channel or like. Or, hey, we're gonna do real world road rules challenge with like 5 people from across the it would smash and they're all in Dodge Rams or whatever. It would be great.
Dude, I for my whole career have been like, all right, in the next 5 years, it's gonna get better because all these young kids are gonna get these jobs and then they're gonna make it better. And it doesn't. It's just like you just become brainwashed into the thing and it never gets better.
People are still in these jobs, bro. Like, it's like you walk in there, it's still the same like 60-year-old CMO like at these companies, and they're like, it's because they're living longer, they're drinking their AG1, they're on keto. You know what I'm saying?
It's
like,
true.
We have to take them out.
You're right.
We had this play out for us just like recently in the last couple of weeks. So this girl named Yadira Rodriguez, she posted a video to the rapper Lotto. She had a music video coming out called Brokey, and it was called the Brokey Challenge. So it's like submit a video for it. So she worked at Waffle House. She made a video with 4 Waffle House coworkers, and she got fired. Yeah. And so we jumped on that and we were like, look, we'd love to send you anywhere in the world that you want. So we ended up like paying her a bunch of cash. She won the thing from like Lotto's Brokey Challenge. But it's like she just did 3.5 million views working at Waffle House. Like, why are you offended by that? Like, come on.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Waffle House, just put her in a corporate social media role, just like immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And it's like if you've been to a Waffle House, it's like it's not clean up in a Waffle House, man.
Yeah, I was saying, and like, look, at the end of the day, anything should fucking go in a Waffle House related social media scenario. Anything. It doesn't involve someone getting drastically injured.
Totally.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just absolutely mind blowing to me. I don't know. Maybe someday we will see the youth will rise up and we'll take over.
We should do a late night Waffle House show, just like. We see the Southern tour. Like we do Buc-ee's, we go shopping at Tractor Supply. We do like a From Waffle House live.
Oh yeah, we're planning it. We're planning it. It's gonna happen.
Great
idea. It's gonna be sponsored by Lucky F.
We're there.
Okay.
We're there.
Sick. Well, we're talking about joining up and like getting this, putting some actual effort and energy into this. Thank you for hanging with us, but and like going on the road and trying to do some of this fun stuff where it's kind of like providing value for people, but then also like creating while we're doing that.
If someone's going to try a Lucky flavor, they got this, they're in their bodega, they see it pop up. What is your recommendation they start with?
And you can't say you like all the flavors equally.
Yeah.
You got to pick one, brother.
Red Rider Punch is definitely my favorite. It's got that like just fruit punch, nostalgic vibe to it. Orange Drizzle is also really good. But what's crazy is like, not to do like brand plug, but like all of our 5 flavors sell like really close to each other. So that's a way of saying I love them all.
That's a very nice way of saying they're all great. Yeah. All right. Red Rider Punch though. We're out here. We're gonna be doing our Kool-Aid vision.
Red Rider Punch. Amazing. Yo, this is super fun, man. Where can people get in touch with you or follow the brand? Let us anything you want to plug, let us know.
Yeah, Lucky Energy Official on Instagram, Lucky Energy on TikTok, and then me, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so just catch me there.
Okay.
Yeah, he offered 45 free consults for any of the kids out there. Just he told us that before.
Rest of the day, he's got to open Google Meet.
I'll send a calendar.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Anything we need to hit before we go, y'all? Anything you want to plug, Ashwin?
No.
Please go like and comment on our sponsored content. As always. I would like to see Ashwin would love to if you comment on his facet video. I would love if you shared your insights on how much you love Squarespace. Let's just keep rolling.
Hey, I was there with you, bro.
You saw there. I'm happy your website's in Squarespace. I actually pitched that as part of something.
Adobe Express coming at you soon if I can ever get it approved with the gang and the agency.
If Jordan can ever get creative approved, then that'll be coming soon.
Yeah, well, we've got a little bit of feedback for you. Okay, awesome. Let me redo the whole thing. Thank you. All right, y'all. This was fun.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Appreciate
Have a great
everyone.
week. Thanks,
Peace.
man.
Later, everyone.
Bye.
Peace.